Welcome to the Atwell Podcast.
Welcome to the Atwell Podcast. We're happy to have you. And I guess to begin, I'll give you the floor and let you tell us a little bit about what you got going on.
Okay, Randy, thank you for having me on. I'm very excited to be here and share this story because I feel like it's a personal story, yet it's a very universal story. And I think it's really taught me about how to get through all of the challenges that we need to face in life by being alive and being a human being. So first, my name's Jenn, Greenhut, Tolan, and the story that we're going to talk about began a year and a half after I got married. I was considered like a newlywed, and my husband and I really wanted to have a family. And so we were trying really hard in the very beginning and knowing we're on the older side. So we're like, let's just go right to IVF. So we went through IVF. And after 3 rounds of not getting pregnant, I was like hitting rock bottom. I felt like life is so against me. My dreams of being a mom aren't going to come true. And I was like in a funk. I was really depressed. 6 months after we kind of took a break from IVF, I found this lump under my arm. And I didn't think anything of it just because I had gone through all my mammograms that year and checkups. So I was always clear. And mind you, I was a healthy yoga teacher, never sick. I was a gymnast in my past life. I was a singer-songwriter. I was healthy. I worked out. I thought I was a good person. So I wasn't even worried about being sick. So cut to a week after finding that lump, the doctor diagnosed me with stage 4 triple negative breast cancer. And it really was like the worst moment of my life hearing those words, but also feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm in rock bottom now. And the universe is like giving me a stage 4 cancer diagnosis. Life really must hate me. And go ahead.
Yeah. So first thing is when you found the lump under your arm, that's your lymph nodes,
Yes.
right? Okay. Did they stage you stage 4 because you had lymph node involvement, or did it actually go to like the brain's lungs, somewhere like that?
It went to my bone. So the weirdest thing was when I was first biopsied, the woman who biopsied it said, I'm assuming it's stage 2, but we're going to do MRIs on your lymph nodes and PET scans and all that stuff. But we're thinking it's stage 2. Every test that came back said, no, this is now stage 3. No, sorry, this is now stage 4. So it was like really shocking and scary because the doctor said, if it's stage 3, we got it under control. Most people can feel cured. But they said even before hearing that I was stage 4, they said, stage 4, there is no cure. The best thing is to help it not grow and, have a life of just maintaining it. So those were the words that I heard before my diagnosis came back and saying I was stage 4. So immediately I thought the life was trying to kill me because I felt like my purpose in being a mom was not happening. And it was kind of like, okay, you had this many years to do your purpose. That's not working. Let's get her out of here and have her come back. So meanwhile, I really don't want to die. I just pray so hard to find the right doctor who can save my life. And one of the things I learned through this experience is that sometimes we're always freaked out, just pick a doctor that'll take you and start treatment. But if I had picked doctor number 1 or doctor number 2, I probably wouldn't have been here. So my third doctor appointment was at UCLA. And I remember feeling safe immediately when I walked into his office. But he did this long examination with me and he checked my entire body and he said the treatment was going to be 6 rounds of chemotherapy, a double mastectomy, 6 weeks of radiation, and then he recommended removing my ovaries. And he said, I know you were trying to have a baby, you know, you'll never be able to carry your own child. But I want you to know that if you had gotten pregnant, that pregnancy most likely would have killed me. And
Yeah. So the thing that the way that I understand it is that's what's called 522 protocol. And I only know this because that's pretty much the exact same thing my wife went through to the T. The ovaries thing is interesting because we didn't get um, recommended to get ovaries out until later on. And the reason why is because they said that the estrogen levels produced by having ovaries would help fuel the cancer to grow faster. So I just thought that was
the reason why for me it was recommended, it's because I tested positive for the BRCA gene.
Oh, okay.
So,
Yeah.
and I had no idea I had this gene. I took a
Yeah.
stage 4 cancer diagnosis to find out that I had the gene. So
Hmm.
it's so crazy how it's just not like a normal routine test, you know, under insurance that all women
Hmm.
should have just to know, because there's so many people diagnosed with cancer that could have been not diagnosed with cancer if they had known they had the gene.
Hmm.
But so that was the reason why they recommended taking my ovaries out, because with BRCA1, you have a really high chance of ovarian cancer and breast cancer. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
they didn't want to play any chances.
Yeah.
So the point of that, the story was, who knows if I would have died or not. I felt that the universe wasn't punishing me, that the universe was saving my life by not getting pregnant. So
Hmm.
in my mind, I thought life was now, life loved me, you know, and I'm,
Hmm.
life is leaving me, and life has always been leading me. So I
Hmm.
truly walked out of that doctor's office thinking, this is such a gift. Life is always working out. It's always been working out. And now I believe even with stage 4 cancer, it's going to be working out.
Hmm.
So I decided to love everything that I was going to go through. I didn't know if I was going to live or die, but I just decided that's what I was going to do, and I was going to make the most out of treatment. I was so grateful just to be alive, not knowing when that last day would be, and
Hmm.
also just full of trust of like getting through this
Hmm.
and coming out okay. So I
Yeah.
started treatment in January of 2017, and I was cancer free in 4 months, which shocked all my doctors and defied all the odds. I mean, I know you probably know the statistics for triple negative stage 4. It's like you have a 12% chance of living 5 years.
Yeah. It's
Uh,
not good.
it was pretty crazy. And so obviously I'm not a doctor or a scientist, but I felt like I uncovered like the secrets of the universe and like the secrets to heal by, you know, rewiring energetically how you are looking at life and how you're looking at this disease. I started like even really paying attention to where the cancer cells were and focusing my energy and sending it love and sending it like, you know, apologies
Mhm.
for beating you up and for feeling so bad
Mhm.
about myself. And it was like this whole like transformation of like self-hate to self-love.
Yeah.
And it, because it went so quickly, it just made me think, oh my God, I did something right that I gotta share. And so it led me to start a company. It led me to start a foundation called the Zero Negative Foundation.
Mhm.
And it led me to write a book with my husband Larry, because we wanted to honor the caregiver experience, your experience, just as much as the patient experience, because it really was a team effort getting through. It's a, you
Mhm.
know, a long couple of years that you're in treatment, even
Yeah.
though, you know, your wife is okay, right?
Yeah, yeah. So my wife got really lucky. I'll tell you a little bit about her story here in just a moment or two. I wanted to make a couple comments. Number one comment that was on my mind pretty much for a week leading up to this meeting is how awesome your husband is for being there and being involved. Because I have a friend named Shayna. She's a stage 4 triple negative, and she's a single mother, and she was going through a nasty custody battle during the whole time through her treatments. It had went to her brain and her liver, so it had extreme progression, triple negative. And I think about Shayna a lot. I didn't know I was going to talk about her today, but I think about her a lot because, as you said, the caregiver experience. You, with this disease, you have to have a team of people around you, loved ones that are going to comfort you and be there for you. And something that pops up really quickly is that, you're only married for, and you can correct the timeline here, but you're only married for a year and a half.
A year and a half, yeah.
I mean, that is extremely tough on a young marriage.
Yep.
My wife and I had children, and we had been together 12 years before.
Yeah, I mean, it was crazy. We're newlyweds, and now we're cancer patient and caregiver.
Yeah.
You know,
I'll tell your husband that a random guy named Randy from West Virginia was like, "You go, guy, you're awesome. Thank you for,
Well,
sticking around."
Thank you for saying that. It was interesting because, I mean, Larry's mind, he believes in destiny, and
Hmm.
he didn't think I was going to die because he thought he wasn't going to be, his destiny was not losing a wife so early.
Hmm.
That was in his mind. In my mind, I'm thinking I possibly could die because of the statistics, but I didn't believe that I was going to die. But people would say to him, "You're such a good guy for staying," and people would say to me, "You're so lucky he didn't leave." And it was just, we both were like, "But I love you. Why would I leave?"
Yeah, of course. I mean, I can definitely see like the both sides of that, like kind of emotional thing. It's like, okay, we got married. I mean, when you get married, you kind of sign up for the unknown, you know?
Yeah, you totally do. You don't think it's going to come after a year or two, but
Yeah.
it's till
Uh,
death. It really just challenged the vows. But
mhm.
but
Yeah.
no, we were lucky. I mean, we were lucky to have each other, and it, like you were saying, it's like the whole community comes together for this one person. But what I learned and received was just like the such love and support, and just from strangers even,
Hmm.
that are just sending prayers or sending random cards,
Hmm.
gifts. It all means so much. And
Yeah.
which is why I wanted to start the foundation, the Zero Negative Foundation, because part of it is empowering patients and sending them gifts to share happy ending stories, but also to share, like, I'm thinking about you. You can do it. You
Hmm.
have people on your side, because it's really important.
Well, the triple negatives always was something that once I learned what it was, it just affects you more. And I'm not trying to downplay the other breast cancer
Mhm.
diagnoses, but a lot of other breast cancer diagnoses, you're not going through radiation, you're not going through chemo, you're not getting a double mastectomy, you're getting probably a lumpectomy,
Yep.
and you're moving on pretty quickly with your life. You're going to get 6-month checkups, and
Mhm.
but when you go through, I mean, you can hear from the protocol, you're going to lose your hair. You're
Mhm.
going to have severe pain from the chemo. My wife went through a chemo called the Red Devil. It was
Yeah.
terrible.
That was one of the things that every oncologist wanted to kill me with. But
Hmm.
my oncologist at UCLA, he said, "I'm going to start you with these two chemo drugs, the Taxotere and the carboplatin. And I believe that those are going to be enough. But if they
Hmm.
aren't working, we're going to add in the Red Devil." But
Hmm.
thankfully, the chemo drugs that I had worked immediately. Like by the third round, he was like, "I can't find anything." And it
Hmm.
was like shocking. So I was saved by that. But I've heard that is a really bad one.
Yeah, it was. I remember one night in particular, we share a bed together, and I had bought, a better mattress, a softer, nicer mattress, because I knew she was going to be, down for a few days. And I remember rolling over and just touching her back just barely, just very common to cuddle at night or whatever as a married couple. And I remember her just being in excruciating pain just from the touch.
Mm.
I mean,
Mhm.
it was insane, and rashes. She would break out in rashes. There's a host of other
Yeah.
symptoms that you could possibly go through from that particular chemo. But the drug that I really liked that was kind of new that we got lucky with, and I think it came out after you were, that was immunotherapy. So we got something called Keytruda.
Oh yeah, that was after me.
Yeah.
But I don't know if was that a chemo drug?
So what it is, the way I understand it, obviously I'm not a doctor, but it basically, your body naturally fights cancer inside of your, you know, fights cancer naturally. So this just basically strengthens your body's own response to fight cancer. And your body's able to detect cancer cells before they latch onto anything. So whenever they're just scrolling through the bloodstream. So it was a really a breakthrough drug. Our oncologist, a doctor named Rajiv Khanna, was very excited. Limited people had access to it at the time. And he says, you know, the prognosis for people who are able to get immunotherapy is a lot better. It's a tough drug, but you can even get immunotherapy even outside the original protocol. So, I mean, what I would say is, for anybody who's going through cancer is, or has ever had a cancer treatment, is just to ask, you know, your doctor about Keytruda immunotherapy. It might be something that you want to look into.
Well, thankfully, I've been cancer-free for 8 years now, so
Yeah, that's beautiful. 8
I'm
years.
not planning on doing any other chemo.
So you went through the chemo, you went through the radiation. Did you decide to get a mastectomy?
Oh, I had to do a double mastectomy. It was
Right.
chemo first, and then it was a double mastectomy, and then it was radiation, and then it was like 6 other surgeries after that. And the last one being the removal of the ovaries.
Mhm. One thing that kind of popped in my mind, with whenever I got into the groups, right? I got into all these Facebook groups and I was locked in. I was like, okay, what's everybody going through? And you know, my wife doesn't really do social media, so you know, I'm asking like a million women what their protocol is, what's going on. And the thing that I really noticed, the people who were didn't get good prognoses had a negative home life.
Mm-hmm.
And then they also fought the treatments that the doctors were wanting to do. So they were just like, I'm not losing my hair. And it's like,
So I think, Randy, that is such a huge like awareness, but also it was my awareness too. I mean, I even watched a lot of social media and I listened to people, and people need to, like, if they're going to go through cancer, they really need to trust their treatment. And if
mhm,
they don't, then they need to find another doctor that they can trust. Because it's
mhm,
almost like you're in a relationship and you're half in and you're half out, and a half in, half out relationship isn't going to really work out.
mhm,
You know what I
no,
mean? You have to
no,
like full on believing or find that person that's going to unlock that choice. And the
mhm,
thing is, like, going through cancer, like, no one wants to go through cancer. No one wants to lose their hair. But if they're
mhm,
gonna lose their hair, it's better not to be angry about it, because that
yeah,
anger or that energy just isn't helping anyone, especially you,
mhm,
you know.
yeah,
And just, I always share with losing my hair, it grew back better, thicker,
mhm,
darker,
mhm,
healthier. You know, it was just like a little break. And it
yeah,
really grew back quickly. Like,
yeah,
maybe for 8 months, I had no hair and then little fuzz. And then I kind of enjoyed all the stages when it was growing back.
mhm. It's beautiful. I mean, you look great. And
Yeah,
the sad reality is some people don't get that. I've seen
I
some
know.
of them get 6 months, you know, from a stage 4 diagnosis. Interestingly enough, we had a meeting with our oncologist maybe a month or so ago, and he was talking to us about bone progression himself. And he said bone progression now is curable. I mean, that's what he said, even stage 4.
That's
And they
amazing.
basically was doing infusions to strengthen the bones, doing, I think it was a bone scan, but I think it was maybe called a DEXA scan. I can't
Hmm.
I can't really remember, but yeah, I mean, I think some people need to go through the terrible part of it to buy themselves some time. Even if you do have a ridiculously bad prognosis, go through the treatment, buy yourself some time, and medical things are happening every single day, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. I know. I really felt grateful to be able to receive chemotherapy, because I also knew if I had been diagnosed 10 years prior, I really wouldn't have lived, like research is always getting better. And it made me very passionate about giving back to cancer research as well, especially at UCLA, which is where I did all my treatment.
Mm-hmm.
But you kind of like have to find the little things to be grateful for, and because there's not a lot to be grateful for when you are feeling so crappy and going through treatment and just in your skin, you just are so uncomfortable, fatigued, nauseous, uh, irritable, but you get this treatment that is saving your life.
Mm-hmm.
Got to just
Yeah.
lean into that. And it's like a chapter. And I just, I don't like being miserable. I've been depressed a lot in my life, but I don't like the feeling of having no hope. And so going through treatment, it was just like there's always a reason. I'm doing this because I'm going to learn something, or I'm going to be better because of it. And I just, kept leaning into that. And then it was interesting because the more you lean into that, the more you really start believing it. And then the more it's your reality. And that's exactly what happened. Like I believed before treatment, it's going to be the best thing that happened to me. And it was the best thing to happen to me. Like I will never, ever wish I could not have gone through what I went through, because I'm such a better person because of it. And life just means so much more.
The thing about breast cancer itself, and then like this prognosis that really like kind of makes me sad, even as a man outside looking, is because it attacks all the things that make that show a feminine side. You lose your hair, you're losing your boobs, you're losing your woman parts. And my wife was talking about that, and she was really upset. She's like, I'm not even a woman anymore. I'm just a human being, she said. And I really got sad when I heard that, and I really understood where she was coming from. It's like, girls tend to think a lot about their image, and they should, and it's a natural human thing. But it takes so much from you. I mean, it takes everything from you. And then you're dealing sometimes with income related issues, family issues. A lot of people still have to have jobs and work.
Yeah.
And
And some people don't even want to be honest with their boss or of what they're going through, and I feel that I think breast cancer especially is asking us to love every part of ourselves and our bodies. And I'm a woman, no matter what, if my breasts are small, if my breasts are huge, if I have, I'm still like, it's like we're more than women. We're pieces of God.
Yeah, of course.
And our bodies aren't our identity.
I really like that. I like to do quotes. I like to write notes. Pieces of God. I've never heard that before. That is really awesome. Sorry, it kind of caught me off guard. We are pieces of God. And
How I look at humanity, and I feel like we're all family. We're all part of the one big whatever it is.
Yeah.
We're like pieces of God
So
here
you
trying
did
to figure
go.
it out.
So you did go ahead and get your ovaries taken out as well.
I did. That was the last surgery that I had. And so your wife probably was in menopause right when she started treatment, right? Like I never had a period after, once I started chemotherapy, I never had a period. And then I had to lose my ovaries. So, and the problem was that having the BRCA gene and also having been diagnosed with stage 4, like I can't do any hormone therapy or estrogen replacement or anything like that. So as a woman who was a newlywed and enjoyed having a good sex life, like that's one thing that sort of went out the window. But you just your body recovers. It just doesn't recover, and it doesn't get as good without the estrogen.
My thing, as far as she was definitely in menopause. My wife, she as far as from a sexual standpoint, I'll say that we were still okay. Maybe not as active, obviously, because there's a lot of health stuff going on, a lot of stress. But we had also been together for 12 years. We've been together since we were teenagers.
Wow.
So it was something that we were willing to put secondary. You know, but I will say a funny joke
Yep.
because when my wife was on chemo, she was put on the steroid, and I think it aggravated her the worst of anything because the steroid made her gain 5 pounds a week.
Oh, wow.
So she's losing her hair. She's
What was it
gaining.
for? The steroid.
I think it was to strengthen her up to make her not feel so bad when she got the chemo. The thing with my wife was is she was extremely small. So
Mhm.
she was probably 5 foot, maybe 120, somewhere in there. 5'2", 120. I don't know, something like that. Very skinny, very, very short. But she was still getting the regular amount of chemo. You know, she was still getting a large dose or whatever. So she needed some other medicines to, keep her body strong and keep her appetite up. She would get nauseous a lot and things. But the funny thing is, and I still laugh about this because, like I said, we've been together since we were teenagers, and we used to joke with each other and say, I'll love you even if you turn fat and bald and all this little like. And I looked at her one day. I was like, I think we both like stuck with what we said because I'm fat and bald, you're fat and bald. So we were just joking about it.
That's so
Um, she was very positive with everything, and she never fought anybody. She basically just said, "It's fine, it's fine, it's whatever." People would reach out and ask if we need anything, and it's like, yeah, we need to be cancer free. I mean, there's nothing you can
yeah.
really
Yeah.
really do at this point. But we did have a lot of positivity. I think that positive attitude is probably the biggest healing factor outside of God that we had. For us, we think that my wife was healed by God, and then secondly, that positivity. So when you were talking about how positive you were going through the treatment, in my mind, I'm thinking that makes total sense, and it's really good.
Yeah. And I think also it was just the switch and like never really appreciating life because I was always looking at what I didn't have and I wasn't appreciating what I had. And I always had so much, but I was just looking at didn't have a kid, I didn't have this, I didn't have that. And then all of a sudden stage 4 cancer, I was like, oh my God, I never appreciated being alive. And then,
Hmm.
I was like, I hope I have more chances to appreciate life and everything I have. So
Hmm.
I went through cancer feeling just so grateful to be alive,
Hmm. How
feeling
how old was
grateful.
you when you were diagnosed?
How long ago?
Or how old was you?
47, 47.
You were 47 when you were diagnosed? Oh
Mhm.
my gosh, you look like you're like 27. What in the world? You look great.
I think the chemo really did wonders on my skin.
Really? It looks good. What? This is crazy. I look like I'm like 57. I'm 33 and you're in your 50s?
I am. It's crazy.
What? That is crazy. I mean, for anybody who's watching this, you guys got to see this. Like, if you guys go through chemo and everything, you could still come out
Yeah.
looking like this.
Chemo.
This is crazy.
So your wife is cancer free now. Uh,
Hmm.
was she also stage 4 or what stage was she?
Yeah. So this is. I'll tell you. I forgot to earlier. So my wife, believe it or not, was a logger. So she was in a very masculine job, and um, basically one day she finds a lump on her chest. Now, as I said before, my wife is extremely small.
Mhm.
So she had A cup breast, very small breast. And this lump, we just thought, well, she's hit it at work or something. She did get hit at work one time. We didn't think it was related. I guess it could have been. I don't really know. Um, but she basically felt it, and we were like, she was 29.
Mhm.
We're not thinking,
Yeah.
anything about it. Few weeks go by and it's growing exponentially. And now I'm freaking out because as any other married couple with children, we got so much stuff going on. We got football. I've got a trip to Iceland coming up. We're saving money trying to buy a house. I mean, there's all these things going on. and we didn't even have health insurance because we're all just healthy. We're fine, we didn't think a lot about it. And I remember thinking, okay, well, I got to get her to a doctor, so I got to get her some health insurance and stuff. So we go through that. It's been like maybe a month from the first find. But at this point, this tumor is as big as her breast.
Wow.
It is huge. So, as you already know, the way to diagnose it from stage 3 to stage 4 is if it has any movement from the breast to any other part of the body. Outside the lymph nodes, yes or no. If it's just in the lymph nodes, they don't necessarily consider it stage 4 all the time, but they can.
Yeah.
I think it's got to go brain, bones, lungs, liver, something like that. Anyways, so naturally, as I'm researching, we get the test results back. We're like, hey, it is cancer. It is stage 3. This is a really not good cancer. So I'm immediately in the groups learning. And at that time, I realized that if it has went outside, even one cell, you're stage 4. At that time, I thought, well, she'd be dead. And so I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, well, it has had to have spread because look at how big this thing was compared to her breast. There's no way it just stayed right there. We knew she had some swollen lymph nodes, but they wasn't like what you were talking about. They was a little swollen, not bad. So we quickly found out that she had lymph node involvement. Now I'm really freaking out. And we got the scan, and somehow it had never spread anywhere else. And the chemo just absolutely killed it. So by the time she got to the Red Devil, there was no trace of cancer left at all in her bloodstream, no trace in her boobs, or anything like that. And our oncologist's idea is to throw every single thing at it as possible. He would literally quite say, we've got to throw the kitchen sink at this to have a chance of survival. And we like Dr. Khanna, and we decided to do that approach. And yeah, she's been cancer free 2 years. So I think she has maybe a 10% chance of reoccurrence. She does have early onset menopause. She did lose her breast. But my wife is very similar to you. She's got her hair back.
Good.
She's starting to look a lot more feminine and get more confident. I think she's getting more confidence back in her appearance.
Yeah.
She's starting to lose some of that chemo weight.
Yeah.
And my wife is
She did she think she was gonna die?
the hardest night. I think one of the hardest days of my entire life wasn't even something I was necessarily involved in. I remember when we had to sit down and tell our kids that she had cancer. And we have an older child. At the time he was 10, so he's pretty aware of what's going on. And I will never forget this as long as I live. She goes in there and she's sitting there. At the time, she thought she's going to die. She doesn't know that it hasn't spread. She hasn't really went through all the treatment yet. She knows it's stage 3 at least, at minimum. That she's got like a 6-inch tumor. And she's consoling our son. Our son is laying on the bed crying, thinking his mom's going to die. And she's thinking she's going to die, but she's crying and holding him, trying to console him. And at that moment, it changed my entire perspective of marriage and motherhood and really women's health. It just made me locked in. I knew at that moment, like, I was going to be involved in the triple negative community and in breast cancer research, breast cancer diagnosis for the rest of my entire life. I knew, like, I'm at war with this thing forever now. Like, I hate this thing.
Yeah.
She's tough. My wife is the strongest woman I've ever met.
Do you think that you're stronger because of it? I mean, you guys are stronger because of it.
Our marriage is stronger, yes. So we had a really good marriage even before, but I think when you get that, I think that when you get that clarification, like, hey, we're in this regardless of what happens together. The one thing that I will say that you get, and maybe you experience this, I don't know, maybe you can, tell me what you think, but maybe a little bit of an identity crisis, because to me, like, you don't come out the same way that you went into this.
No.
And you have to like try to find yourself, I guess, because you spend, like you said, like 2 years of your life dedicated to just trying to survive.
Yeah. Well, and also, like, most of the time after you survive, all you say is, I'm a stage 4 cancer survivor. But that's not really who I am. Yes, that's part of my resume.
Mm-hmm.
Am I a gymnast? No, but it's on my resume. Am I, a married wife, a mother, what is your identity? It's like all of it. It's kind of like I
Mm-hmm.
started just thinking, oh, it's just like, okay, it's on my resume now, stage 4 cancer survivor. And now I
Mm-hmm.
have another thing on the resume. I live in Los Angeles. We just went through the worst fires in the history of Los Angeles fires.
Mm-hmm.
We had to evacuate. My parents lost their home. My sister, her kids,
Mm-hmm.
they lost their home. So now, we're victims to this climate change, whatever it is, but that's now on our resume, homes
Mm-hmm.
burned down. Now we
Mm-hmm.
got to deal with that. So it's almost like there's so many challenges that life is just continuing to throw at us. And it's our choice of like, how do we get through it? Do we, just trust it's leading us somewhere in a good way and not trying to punish us, but just trying to make us maybe just appreciate being alive more.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, look at
The
what
house fire thing is kind of similar. It's not nearly as dramatic as like a cancer diagnosis, but I've been through 2 house fires myself. My
oh, you're
wife's been through
kidding.
2 house fires.
Wow.
So basically, it's kind of like you have to start all over.
I know. It's like crazy. Everything in my parents' home, like pictures, photos, heirlooms from grandparents, everything is gone. Like
Mm-hmm.
it really like kind of teaches you, okay, it's stuff, it's meaningful stuff,
Mm-hmm.
but wow, like to have nothing after 80 years of a life, it,
Mm-hmm.
it's hard to understand and to really process.
It's kind of an attack on, like, even though they're material things, it's kind of like an attack on your memories almost, because there's some things that you kind of forget about until you see something there. Maybe there's a particular memory or feeling that's attached to this
Yeah,
object, and when you
like
lose it,
photos, so many photos that we'll just never see again.
yeah.
And that's hard, just not being able to see your grandparents or the family photos and
Mm-hmm.
the baby pictures and the
So what does people think in Los Angeles actually started the fires? Like, I haven't honestly looked it up at all.
it's client. I mean, it was the worst winds at the time. Santa Ana winds. It's very dry. We've had
Mm-hmm.
we had no rain for a long time, and
Mm-hmm.
it they call it like brush fires. So
Mm-hmm.
when it's like really dry, and then there's so much wind, and then it was just like one fire started, and then the winds just blew it, and then it just kept blowing
No.
days, and so it was just so hard to contain.
Mm-hmm. Tell me a little bit about this zeronegative.com. I haven't went to that. I'll link it in the description. And yeah, tell me a little bit about that. How many people you've helped, or maybe some stories, just
So
whatever you think there is relevant.
when I was going through treatment and I was realizing the power of gratitude and the power of just the mindset,
Mm-hmm.
and I was so passionate about my team of doctors, and I felt like they're giving me a second chance on life, and I really want to give back to their research team. So I was like, what do I do? I started just thinking about what to do, and I just felt like I wanted to do something in the cancer world. So I designed a chemo bag that said love, and it would be sold, and the proceeds of every bag would go to cancer research.
Mm-hmm.
And this is sort of like the first idea, it was like a chemo bag that said love, and it would be reminding everyone no matter if they're going through treatment or just going through life, just to choose love instead of fear. And from that grew the desire to start a foundation and have the foundation empower patients through these chemo totes that would be filled with items that I thought were really important going through chemo. And we would be giving these totes to patients and also having fundraisers every year that would give back to cancer research. And those are the two entities. So there's a corporation, there's a foundation, and then there's the book, Everyone Needs Larry, which is our story as the caregiver and the patient and how we survived, and also gives like tips and advice, like what to bring to surgery, what we did for communication when communication was really hard. There's a lot of funny moments in our story because my husband's very ADHD and you know, he ran over my mother's foot in an oncology appointment in the parking lot. So yeah, it's like we didn't have the perfect journey, but we made it through. And that's sort of the whole idea. No one's going to be like the perfect journey, but you just kind of keep showing up for each other and knowing and trusting that you're going to get to the other side in one piece and stronger and better. So we are, right now, we touch patients through word of mouth and through our website. So you can go to the website and request a Chemo Love Tote for yourself if you're a patient, or you can go to the website as a patient's friend and send something to that person, that doesn't want to ask for it themselves. And
everyone who goes through chemo too, when you're in those chemo, I call them chemo cafeterias, because for us, I don't know if it's the same in Los Angeles, but you're in an open room. Everyone's getting like injection, and it takes all day. There was some days that we were there for 8 hours to get everything done. I mean, you got to get your blood work. They got to make sure everything comes back. And then they go into the drugs, and you need an intermittent period between the drugs. So having a chemo bag, like a go bag, is really, really a good idea, in my opinion. And I support it 100% because, I mean, you need something to calm your mind and keep you positive while you're getting this drug. You're literally watching it. That's going to make you feel like crap forever. So
no, and it's also like we fill it with, you know, cozy items like soft blanket, fuzzy socks, you know, because your skin is so sensitive when you're going through chemo, and you just want to be like wrapped in something soft and warm and that feels good. And you know, it's just essentials, like there'd be a water bottle, a journal, because I truly believe like writing just what you're grateful for and what you have, just it's
a really good idea. Journaling while you're there. I mean, you're sitting, you might as well talk about your story.
Just right, because your story, whoever is going through that story, like when they can share that story and help another person, I think, you know, there's so many survivors that just are so happy to be on the other side and also so wanting to help other people just being diagnosed, because that's paying it forward. And I remember when I was diagnosed, all I wanted to do was talk to women on the other side that had a happy ending, because it just inspired me to keep going. Because it really is, it's scary not knowing what it's going to be like. And, you know, hearing from everyone, it sucks, but you're going to be okay. You're stronger than you know. You will be on the other side. Just day by day.
We made a lot of friends in the chemo cafeterias, as I call them. You know, a lot of stories there. I remember one time this old man came in. He was probably in his 80s, and he was alone. He was sitting right beside us, and he was waiting on his drugs to come in. And he looked at me, and he's just crying. I'm like, what's wrong with this guy? You know, what's, and he's telling me, he said, chemo's just so hard. I don't think that I can do it anymore. And he said, I'm deciding at this today to discontinue my treatment and to go home and let it run its course. And I was thinking, how how insane is that? This guy is basically, he came in, he drove himself to the chemo place, and he came in with the idea in his head, whether or not it turned out true or not, that he's going to die. I mean, that is heavy to have to drive and carry with you. And I guess it's kind of underlining with any diagnosis that it's possible. There's a possibility of it.
That's, I think, the shock of any kind of, diagnosis. When you hear the words, it's like, oh my gosh, cancer,
Mhm.
you can die. I mean, thankfully he was in his 80s.
Mhm.
And it's interesting because the reality of it all is that we're all going to die and we don't know when.
Mhm. No.
We could just walk out and just, you always hear like you could get hit by a car or hit by a bus
Mhm.
or just trip and fall and hit your head and dead. So,
Mhm.
we just don't know, and we're all gonna die. And I'm hopeful that death is not the end, it's just a transition into another realm of
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
But
Well,
I
for,
want to
for us,
enjoy more.
we really believed in God, and there was like some moments there that we felt like there was definitely some divine intervention. Um,
Yeah.
I'll tell you about that, I guess, and then I'll tell you a little quick funny story, and I'll give you the floor for the end. But so the divine intervention, like I said before, we didn't have health insurance, right? And I had some money saved up. I don't know, maybe like 20 grand or something. Not enough, right? But a little bit. And we owned the house that we were living in, so we didn't have like a mortgage or anything. So we had a little bit of expendable income. And basically, when we went and got the health insurance, I was thinking to myself, like, she needs help. This thing's growing really fast. And the people were like, okay, well, we're trying to get the drugs approved or whatever, but it might take weeks or something. I was like, she don't have weeks. We need the drugs today. Like, she needs
Yeah.
them now. And I remember talking to the front desk lady who had also been through triple negative, and I remember asking her, I was like, well, how much is the drugs? I will pay for the first week or two with my money, and the insurance can pay for them, the third or fourth treatment, but at least we would get her in here quicker. And she's like, well, Randy, you're never going to afford it. And I was like, speak for yourself. That's kind of rude. Like, don't tell me like I can't afford it. She's like, you don't understand. Like, you really can't afford this. And I was like, okay, well, whatever. Send me over to billing. Let me talk to him.
Mhm.
And they was like, well, Randy, and she's like, if you want to pay for it, you can. It's I think it was 36,000 a week just for the chemo. That's not the blood work or the scans or the doctors or the
Oh,
nurses or anything. Just 30 some $1,000. And I was like, yeah, dude, like there's no way I can pay for this. Like I remember crying really hard about it. And I remember just praying to God, like, man, I really need some help. Like, there's nothing I can do here. Like,
yeah.
in the next day, that was Monday. The next day, Tuesday, I think, she had called me. She's like, well, I don't know how, but the drugs got approved. You'll be in here Thursday. And I was like, just totally shocked. I was like, thank you, Lord. Like, and
And you had applied for health insurance and then it got approved right away.
yeah. And
Yeah.
they told us in the beginning it would take weeks to get
Yeah.
the drugs approved. Well, at the time, my wife's tumor was the size of a cantaloupe. I mean, what's it going to do? Like, cover her whole face? I mean, there's no way we could have waited that long.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of crazy how the insurance companies can't work with people that are, dying. They
Mm,
obviously need the drug right away. I mean, my insurance, I had insurance, but it wasn't great. And I was diagnosed at the end of the year. And with insurance, you can't change your insurance until the very beginning of a year. So if
oh,
I
yeah.
had been diagnosed in, let's just say March, I would have had really crappy insurance, and who knows if I would be able to receive the treatment that I got. But
Hmm.
my husband was able to switch my insurance over at the end of the December, which so I had new insurance in January, and that's when I started treatment in January.
Yeah, that's awesome. The health insurance thing, like I said at the time, I was, you know, 30, 31. I think my wife was, I know she was 29 when she was diagnosed. So honestly, I just didn't know a lot about health insurance. I'd never been sick to have to worry about it. I mean, we had health insurance when our kids was born, but that's pretty much it. And our kids was pretty healthy. And I remember calling the health insurance companies and trying to get quotes on the phone, online, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
One of the places was like wanting to charge me like 20,000 a year. I was like, dude, like that doesn't seem right, you know. So I mean,
It's
anyway.
kind of crazy.
Hmm.
And obviously I'm sure you have insurance now, or your wife has
Oh
insurance.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
So, and it keeps going up, especially because of our history, you know.
Oh yeah, yeah. And the premiums are pretty crazy. And
Yeah.
with all the surgeries, I mean, my gracious, you got. I mean, you'll have your regular mastectomy, double
I had
mastectomy.
8 total in a period of 1 year. I had 8.
Yeah, yeah. So, like, what was the all the eight? I guess I know the mastectomies.
So one was did I okay, so one was the mastectomy,
Hmm.
and then I had a surgery because there was like one checkup scan where they thought I had something on my bladder.
Hmm.
'Cause, you freak out along the way, like with all the little scans and all the little feelings and this and that.
Hmm.
So there was just like a surgery, arthroscopic surgery to like go in and scope
Yeah.
it, biopsy it. And then
Hmm.
I had uh the when they put the what are they called? Expanders in.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So they have to put in the expanders, and then they have to put in the first implants,
Hmm.
but the implants aren't going to be the real ones because you still have to go through radiation and your skin will change as
Yeah.
it starts healing. So there were like
Hmm.
4 surgeries with tweaking the implants.
Hmm.
And then the final surgery was the last part of the implants and the ovaries being removed.
Yeah. Did you like the expanders? Was it painful? Like,
I did not like them at all.
yeah,
I
my
mean,
wife didn't either.
they are very strange looking too.
Hmm.
The good thing for me, I didn't know going into the double mastectomy if my nipples would be saved, and they were.
Hmm.
So I
Hmm.
kind of got fortunate with that because my my boob actually seems like it looks exactly the same. It's the same size.
Hmm.
It looks the same because nothing was taken off of it. Uh,
Hmm.
it's just they'll be perky forever, you know. That's okay.
I was joking with the nurses, and like I said, we're just kind of silly with it and just try to have the most laughter moments as possible. And I
Yeah.
remember telling her I pulled out this $20 bill, and I was like, Dr. Woodbury, and she's like, what? And I was like, here's $20. Throw a couple extra pumps in them things for me. And she was just laughing. Autumn's like smacking me. My wife's like smacking me and stuff.
Yeah.
And
No, it's funny because Larry, my husband always joked about that too. But if I had wanted, I was small, so I wasn't ever wanting to be anything that I wasn't. And if I
Mhm.
had, but a lot of women do, and if I had wanted to be bigger, I know that it would have been a lot more painful because they have to stretch your skin and take the
Oh yeah.
time. And so, I mean, I'm glad that I didn't want to be bigger because I know I would have gone through like a lot.
Yeah, it
Mm.
was painful. That's the reason why mentioned it, because my wife, she went through all the chemo, but I think she hated the expanders the worst out of all of it. It was
Yeah, the
just,
expanders were really bad. And I mean, the double mastectomy was a painful surgery to recover from, but the expanders were just yucky, yucky, yucky,
mm,
yucky. Oh, and then the last surgery was, I was a gymnast. I was training for the Olympics back when I was a teenager. I had a hip replacement surgery at the very end of that year
mhm,
because I just had bone on bone arthritis in one of my hips. So
mhm.
I just had to deal with that. But now I'm bionic woman, pretty much.
Let me tell you a funny story about the chemo lab. I think you're going to find this hilarious. So they do blood work before you get chemo to make sure like they can actually administer it. Because some people have like crazy, like their white blood cell count won't be good enough or just whatever, right? And they can't give it. So they do blood work before and then they wait for the test results to come back. Well, this particular time, we had never missed any weekly chemo. We had never missed, her blood work was always good and everything. We took the steroid. And this particular time, her sugar was through the roof. And there's like all these nurses like, oh my God, like, why is your sugar so bad? What's going on here? We're going to have to give you like I guess, some kind of like a diabetic shot or something. And we're sitting there and we quickly realized why her sugar's bad because I bought her a sweet tea from McDonald's on the way to the chemo. And she
Oh
had
my
chugged
gosh,
an entire
that's
sweet
funny.
tea. Yeah.
Wow.
And I was like, and me and Autumn's looking at each other and we're like, dude, we can never do this ever again. Like, this is a really bad idea. Like, don't chug sweet tea, one of the like sugariest drinks ever, before you go get blood work done. It's not a good idea.
Not a good idea. Now, we had a couple crazy funny chemo stories. One was I never threw up, but I felt nauseous a lot.
Hmm.
And it was like the last round of chemo, and I was just downstairs pacing, just complaining, like moaning, like, oh, I feel so sick.
Hmm.
And Larry was like just fed up with my whining at this point. And he just like took my hand, walked me to the bathroom, lifted up the toilet seat, thinking I was going to throw up. He'd help me. And then all of a sudden he throws up. And then I feel better. It was just the craziest
What?
thing. So that's sort of how like energetically we were connected, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but there's also
Sympathy, like he had sympathy nausea.
it's just so weird that I felt better after he threw up.
Mhm.
But one other thing, so we had rescued a dog, a Maltipoo who had been, do you have a dog? Because
Mhm.
dogs are the best. Okay, so we rescued a dog right after I was like really down about not getting pregnant. We took a break. We get a dog, and this dog is so cute. Was hit by a car, and he
Mhm.
becomes like our baby. And then we have him for about 4 months, and then I'm diagnosed with cancer. He goes to every appointment with me. He's with at my side the entire time through treatment, taking naps, whatever. He's the service dog. A year after I'm cancer free, I start just feeling a lump on his wrist. I take him to the doctor. They're like, I don't think it's anything, but let's biopsy it. He had
Mhm.
cancer. He got cancer, and then he was okay because they just had to do a surgery. But I truly believe this dog came down to save my life by sucking out some of the cancer energy. And
Yeah.
because
Like some
dogs
Green Mile,
do
like.
that. And so he's always been like our angel that just sort of, it was just crazy. And UCLA ended up doing this whole story about it because they were like, cancer survivor Jenn, cancer survivor dog. Like,
Mhm.
and then my husband Larry, he's like, we have two cancer survivors and a caregiver. That's our family.
Mhm.
Two cancer
Um,
survivors and a caregiver.
I almost forgot. I'm glad you mentioned the UCLA thing. Tell me about the Lakers. You were a Laker for a day,
I
or?
was honored as a patient of the year 1 year. And their
Mhm.
program, they have a program called Laker for a Day. So they
Mhm.
basically followed me around, interviewed me, had a story about me, and then brought us to a Laker game and showed everyone at Staples Center the whole story.
Yeah.
And it was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. Um, I used to idolize Kobe so much.
Oh yeah. Okay.
His story, man, it kind of upsets me to even talk about. When Kobe was a teenager coming into the high school, I was actually homeless at the time.
Oh wow.
So I was a very young child, probably 5, 6 years old. And I remember seeing Kobe, this high school kid, supposedly as good as Michael Jordan, going into the NBA. And his story just gave me like so much like it made me feel like I could do it too. like I could make my life like mean something if I work hard. I could be awesome too, and I could get out and everything. So like when I saw like you were a Laker for a day, like plus you live in Los Angeles, I mean, Kobe's just comes to my mind pretty instantly.
Yeah. Well, you have a pretty interesting story too, it seems.
Yeah, I'm working with a couple people. I'm thinking about writing a book at some point. I don't know if it's going to happen or not. I've definitely been through a lot. You'll see it in some of the other episodes. I know the listeners will definitely know about it, but yeah, I'll say this. I've been through a lot of things in my life, from house fires to my mom had a brain tumor, my dad had passed away at a young age, all these things, but my wife getting cancer, that was probably the hardest thing I'd been through. Because I thought in the beginning, I thought I'm going to be a single dad. It ruined, like my career was ruined. I was working very hard for countless hours. It wouldn't surprise me if I worked 80 hours a week, on my career at that time leading up to that. And, I had this huge trip to Iceland and everything. And life was really good. And then that kind of derailed everything. And going into the identity crisis stuff, I just I didn't know where to go because I was like, man, I'm going to have to raise two kids by myself. When I
Yeah.
was seeing your story in the book name, Everyone Needs a Larry, and just how open you was about that positive relationship with your husband, it really.
And it wasn't always easy, but we always knew like we would, no one was worried about somebody leaving. You know what I mean?
Mhm,
Not
mhm,
everyone was in a good mood all the time. It's a hard thing to go through, especially because the one with cancer, which is me, I'm the one that's kind of like gets a pass at being a brat, being a bitch, not being able to do anything, like it really is all on your shoulders to take
mhm,
the load and help out. And you're not even allowed to be in a bad mood because you don't have cancer. You're not fighting for your life. And
mhm,
so it was really, our story was really honoring the caregiver's journey
mhm,
because they really have to just keep it all together for this person that they love. And it's, you're allowed to make mistakes too because you're not perfect, but you show up and you're just like, okay, what do we do now? Where do we go now? And that's the most important thing, I think, as a caregiver. You just keep showing up.
mhm. That was extremely tough, and for us, where we live at, we didn't have any options for health care that was immediate. So we had to drive an hour away for chemo. That we had to do maybe sometimes 3 trips a week, an hour away. It's up this huge hill called, we call it Sandstone Mountain. So it was extremely hard on our vehicle. I just bought a brand new SUV, and this SUV within the first year we put 50,000 miles just on this car. So financially, it was extremely draining. Um, just the gas, the losing the vehicle, the insurance, co-pays, and then to get surgeries, we had to drive 3.5 hours away.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And
Yeah,
to a
you know what?
place.
I don't think about that. We don't live far from UCLA, so that wasn't a big deal. But you're right, like so many people have to travel really far for a weekly chemo or bi-weekly and all the surgeries. Yeah, it's tough.
I couldn't even count how many times I drove to. We live in a place called Greenbrier County, West Virginia. Morgantown is where we go, and it's a state of the art hospital, one of the best hospitals on the East Coast. A place called Ruby Memorial, and right on the outskirts of Pennsylvania. And basically, we um we would drive 3.5 hours, sometimes 4 hours, depending on traffic there. We would do all our doctor's appointments. I would drive back and then have to go to work, that evening. And I'm just like, And you're right. I mean, you said something there that I've never heard anybody else say, but as it relates to the caregiver, it was like I was unallowed in the public image to feel like a victim. I don't know how else to say that, but I did feel like somewhat of a victim. I was like, why in the heck did this happen to my family? I'm working hard. I'm raising my kids, I'm being a faithful husband. It's like you feel like it's a curse almost.
Yeah, yeah, it's so true. And the only way that I got through feeling cursed is that I felt like this is a blessing, this is a gift. And to me, it was because I understood. I think we all have these superpowers within us for healing, and it's not, it's love and it's gratitude and it's trust. And these are superpowers that to
Hmm.
embrace everything that we go through.
Hmm.
And I know I trigger people sometimes by saying stage 4 cancer was such a gift,
Hmm.
but I think that was how it became a gift because I thought it was a gift. I honored it. I said, thank you for coming. When am I supposed to learn? And that's the secret, or what was my secret. My secret, it's like, okay, the energy you put into something is the energy you get back.
Hmm. The thing that I had wrote down here says the power of gratitude. You mentioned that a little bit earlier, and I really in love instead of fear. I like that, the power of gratitude. It's if we are positive, I think our body does know to an extent what our
Yeah.
mood is in the situation. I think that there is some healing that can happen based on our mood. I think that you can sort of generate a better outcome just by being positive. That's definitely been your approach from the sounds of it.
Well,
And
it's not like I don't think of it as positive because positive to me is just like, oh, it's okay, great, whatever, it's okay. You know what I mean? It's not, it's grateful for the challenge and it's not easy, but you're grateful for all the lessons that you're learning. Like to me, positive is just like there's no struggle. It's just
hmm.
like, okay, I got cancer. I'm going to smile. I'm going to say it's all good. You know what I mean? There's like so much wisdom that comes from like, how do you find gratitude in something that is supposedly in your mind trying to kill you?
Hmm.
How do you find love for cancer that's growing in your body? And to me, these were cells that were misbehaving. They were my cells that were misbehaving. And if I'm fighting them and battling them and pissed off at them, I'm just being pissed off at me.
Hmm.
So it was like, how we all want to be seen and heard and loved and understood. I had to like go deep and say, these are cells that need to be seen and heard and loved and understood.
Hmm.
And immediately they left, or they just died. Whatever cells do, they just stop growing.
When you were declared cancer free, did your doctor did he seem surprised? Did he seem like, okay, this is what I expected? Did now you're 8 years post, are they like wanting to do more testing on your blood to see if there's something with you individually that was more the reason why you were declared cancer free? I don't know how really to word what I'm wanting to say.
Well, I mean, I still get checked all the time,
Hmm.
and blood tests all the time. I mean, I'm not like made differently. Yes, they
Hmm.
were shocked. Yes, it was way much better outcome than they could ever have hoped. Granted, they they knew I had a chance to live.
Hmm.
I don't think they ever expected it to be that
Yeah.
quick. But also, with stage 4 triple negative cancer, they watch you very closely for the first 5 years
Yeah.
because like other breast cancers, if it comes back, okay, it comes back, they treat it again, and you're fine again. But if it comes back with triple negative, then it's like it's just too aggressive, and there's not
Mm-hmm.
really hope at all.
Mm-hmm.
But after 5 years, they say if it hasn't come back, then you're cured. They hate using that word cured, but they think it will never come back.
Yeah.
So that's the best part about triple negative. Once you're past that 5 year mark, and then I think 7 year mark is like the golden year where you're good. It's not coming back. And if you do get cancer again, it's not going to be related to this cancer.
Yeah. I think it after the way we were told is like the 5 year mark, being cancer free, like you said, you're cured. I think the way they worded it is that your cancer level would be, the chances of it coming back would be the same as anyone else that had never gotten cancer of receiving cancer. So they told my wife that the big thing is because it was so aggressive, because it was growing so fast and it was there and so large, that the first 2 years was the big ones that we wanted to get past, and then the next goal was the 5 year.
Yeah.
So you've been cancer free for over 5 years at this point. Am I reading that
I
right?
had my 7 year. So we we released the book May 22nd, 2022, which was honoring my 5 year mark.
Mm-hmm.
So now I had my 7 year mark last May.
Mm-hmm. One thing that I like to do, because I get to talk to a lot of people, and I began doing this kind of like a collection, is I try to get a book from everyone who comes on the podcast. Is that something that I could
I
do?
would love to send you one.
Yeah. And
I would love to send your wife a chemo tote, but a love tote because she's not going through chemo anymore. But just a tote, just to honor her experience and welcome her to the other side. And I was gonna even bring that up before we said goodbye. So I would love.
yeah, I'll share my what's the word, address with you through email privately off camera. And then yeah, I really appreciate that. Do me a favor with the book, if you don't mind, sign it for me.
Of course. Okay.
Yeah, I do. I get so many, and
What's your
I'm gonna,
wife's name?
my wife's name is Autumn Rain. So
Autumn Rain. I like that. All right, so I'll sign it, Randy and to Randy and Autumn Rain.
yeah, she is. That's the reason why we got together. I saw her. We found each other through Facebook, but she didn't even have a profile picture. She was probably 16, 17 at the time. And I saw the name Autumn Rain. Now, today, if they don't have a picture and it's like some weird name, it's probably a bot or a scammer or something. Back
Yeah,
then, it wasn't like that. But I messaged her. I couldn't help it. I messaged her and I said, "You have the most beautiful name I've ever heard in my life." And I meant it. And it turned out she lived 2 doors down from me. I had no clue.
that's crazy.
Now we're married with 2 children, Isaac and Noah, 12 years old and 10 years old. And we've been together a total of 14 years. So a long time. I have another book. I'm going to add this. I'm going to just tell you what my plans are with this episode. I'm going to add this with kind of like a women's health, women's empowerment kind of a little mini series. And this book is by a federal judge. Her story is really beautiful too. Um, Her name is Mary Beth O'Connor, and she was a meth addict, and she got clean and became a federal judge.
Wow.
So, yeah, her story. I haven't got to do her episode yet. I have it planned in the future
Yeah.
as I'm filming this, but she's got a really cool story. One
Great.
or two last thoughts I'll share, then I'll give you the floor to, like, you know, plug whatever you need to plug, everything like that. Um, the thing with the breast cancer community, and I try to beat everyone into this, is a lot of times mammograms don't happen for women until they're like in their 40s, right? Late 30s, 40s. And the thing that I say, I'm not a doctor, but for any women who may be listening to this, you've got to do self checks when you're doing hygiene. If you're in the shower, in the bathtub, check yourself. know your body, look for things, and if you feel something, say something, right? But so many people feel something and they put it off. They say, I'll go to the doctor in a month or two. That's not the right choice. I promise. Get checked, find out what's going on, and attack it early and hard, in my opinion.
I totally agree. And I also would add, so I was getting mammograms and everything was fine, but the mammogram didn't detect this tumor that was really growing fast. And my oncologist, not my oncologist, my gynecologist should have told me to get ultrasounds with my mammograms.
Hmm.
So if I was getting an ultrasound to go along with the mammogram, I'm sure that I probably would have been saved a stage 4 diagnosis. However, everything always works out, and it's just something I always remind women if they do have dense breast tissue to get ultrasounds with their mammogram, and also to do the self-check. And I always say, if you are blessed with a cancer diagnosis, make sure you find the doctor that you can trust 100%. It's like finding a husband. It's like, it's got to be your person.
Mhm.
Have to really have like that full on trust, because I look at it as like a relationship with your doctor and a patient, like a caregiver and a wife. It's like we want to empower the patient, and the patient doesn't need to worry about the doctor and the treatment. Let them do their job, and then you do your job by showing up the best way possible, by trying to just look at it like it's a small chapter of your life. What is this trying to teach you? How are you going to be better from this, not worse? And that your story will definitely help other people when you're on the other side.
Absolutely. And I think that any one of us, as you've done so well, any one of us that come out the other side should dedicate some time, some effort into helping those still going through. Because anyone who's gone through this knows how hard it is. And we owe a little bit of our life, a little bit of our time to being there for others. Even if that just means if you get the time every 6 months, stop at your local cancer center and bring some, buy some pizza or talk to people or reach out and network, kind of like what me and you are doing here, just bringing awareness and helping to support each other. And I fully 100% support the zeronegative.com. I think it's a beautiful thing that you did. And I'm going to be like on that website.
So the brand, it's LoveZeroNegative.com, because it's kind of like a letter, love, comma, zero negative. And then the foundation is the Zero Negative Foundation, which is zeronegativefoundation.org.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're actually in the process of making the book into a movie.
Hey guys, I'm super excited to announce that we got our very first kind of sponsor, not sponsor, for the Atwell podcast. A beautiful and awesome woman named Jennifer Greenhut. And she owns a company called Zero Negative. We have some of the stuff that she sent us here, a lot of brochures, a personalized note, which was really kind. But the main thing that she sells, and a piece of this goes to benefit ladies who are dealing with triple negative breast cancer, is this bag. It's a love bag, basically for people who go through chemo. Hey Max. The chemo bag, you can put a lot of different things: ice packs, head caps, snacks, notebooks, that sort of thing. But honestly, my favorite thing here that she gave me was this book, and she personalized it to me and my wife. As you know, Autumn Rain, my wife, is a triple negative breast cancer survivor as well, and she wrote a book, Jennifer, with her husband, called "Everyone Needs a Larry," and she wrote us a note here that I'll read. She says, "Dear Randy and Autumn Rain, it was so nice to share stories and to connect with you over triple negative cancer. Here's to loving and trusting the mess, wishing you both health, happiness, and joy from here on out. Love, Jenn." And guys, I gotta say, that Jennifer was so kind and so nice. When I was talking to her, I felt like she was my best friend from just 5 minutes into the episode. And she was definitely one of my favorite people. If you have a chance, please go and check her website out, Zero Negative. She has some things for sale. You can even donate. You have barcodes. I'll link it in the description. And I really appreciate you guys. The key is, and my sort of philosophy on this, is that we all come from different backgrounds. We're going to disagree on stuff, guys, but having empathy, having sympathy, loving one another, and accepting that, hey, we're all wrong about things sometimes, including me. I'm wrong about stuff all the time. But supporting each other when we're down, and helping each other, that's the key. And that's what she did. She's given back to the community that she was a part of and hasn't been a part of. And she's an 8-year survivor of stage 4 triple negative breast cancer. So she gives a lot of hope to people. My wife was a stage 3, and she her story also is important, and so is yours. Your story is important, and you owe it to your family and friends to try your best, and to, when you get on the other side of this terrible journey, to help others and to give back to them. And that's what I'm trying to do here. So I appreciate you if you've watched to this stage of the podcast, and tune in next week. Thank you.